Hi, welcome to Personal Story Coach, Episode 1. I'm not really sure what to call this. It's a podcast, but it's also going to be on YouTube, and I'm also live streaming it through StreamYard to LinkedIn and Facebook. So it feels like it's more than just a podcast, but it's not a show because there's no, dancing bears or juggling monkeys or anything like that. It's just me talking. So I'm not really sure what to call it, but I guess it is a video podcast. And it's December the 6th, 2022, and this is episode 1. I have put off doing this, not put off, I have shied away from doing something like this for a very long time. And what I want to talk about in this first episode today is just to reflect a little bit with you on why that is, what the thinking behind that was, and why my thinking's changed and why now. So I've been coaching and working in various capacities, one-on-one and with small groups and with large groups of people for years. I'm a congregational minister. I live in Vancouver, just outside of Vancouver, Canada. And I've been in pastoral ministry for almost a quarter of a century. That sounds dramatic. It'll be 25 years this year. And so I have lots of opportunities to work with people. And then also as a spiritual director, and then as a coach, I've worked with people in that capacity as well. And I do a lot of public speaking. Most Sundays I'm out there leading a service and speaking for about, 15, 20 minutes or so, 10 minutes, 45 minutes, not 45 minutes. And it's always highly scripted. The sermons, when I talk, it's always highly scripted. Today, and the idea behind this podcast is that there is no script. I'm just going to talk, for better or for worse. And that's another thing that I want to talk about when we get to this thing around why it's taken me this long to finally put myself out into the world in this way. So I've created a product as part of my coaching practice called Personal Story Coach. And the whole notion behind Personal Story Coach is my belief, I think it's a fact, that when we as human beings engage with the world around us, there is the world itself, outside us or inside us. And then there are the stories we tell ourselves and other people about our experience. And it's those stories which have the power to influence what we do, how we feel, what we think. Those stories are incredibly powerful tools and incredibly powerful technology. And so the program and the work I do is really focused around helping people to look at the stories that they have been telling themselves and others about some aspect of their experience inside themselves or outside themselves, and really sort of get into those stories and figure out to what extent those stories are serving them and what other stories might also be possible that might serve them and their communities better. So to that end, I thought in this first episode, I would share with you a few of the stories that I have been telling myself over the years that have kept me from doing what I'm doing here today. Unscripted, as I said. So if there's lots of ums and pauses and all the rest of it, my apologies. I'm also not editing this. I'm just putting it out there. This is my experiment. So one of the stories that I've told myself for years is there's plenty of content out there. The world does not need any more content. And Um, and so I'm not going to do anything like this. So on the one hand, that is true. There is a lot of content out there. Um, on the other hand, we live in this world now where it's not just a matter of, um, there being so many broadcast licenses, and you have to go through a radio station or a television station to get airtime. There's only so many linear feet of shelf space in the bookstore. And so, your book has to compete with all the other books. We don't live in that world anymore, right? We live in a world where any Joe or Joanne like me with a camera and a microphone and an internet connection can put stuff out into the world. And um, so why not? Why not put stuff out into the world? So what if there's already a ton? Um, Kind of leads into the second thing that I've been telling myself for many years, which is that I have nothing new to say, right? There's nothing new under the sun. And again, that is true in a sense. And yet, at the same time, um, it's also true that I do have something to say. We all have something to say. You have something to say. And when we live in such a way that we use an excuse like, I have nothing to say, or nothing new to say, we're selling ourselves short. And we're also not giving other people the opportunity to decide for themselves whether or not I have anything new to say. Like, on some level, who am I to judge whether or not I have anything that is new or worthwhile um, in saying? That's for you to judge. You can just click stop, go to the next one. There's a third story that I've been telling myself over the years, which is that people are not going to be interested in what I have to say. And that's also going to be true for many people, right? There'll be a lot of people who will not be interested in what I have to say. And at the same time, I have other evidence that leads me to other conclusions. So I said a few minutes ago that I'm a congregational minister. I end up doing sermons most Sundays. Not so much anymore, but I used to do them every week, and now I still do them a couple times a month. And the accusation most frequently leveled at me at the door by people on their way out of the church is, you really got me thinking. That really made me think. I can't count the number of times I've heard that over the years. A few years ago, I set myself the task of putting myself out into the world in a slightly different way. I wrote a blog. I wrote a blog every day for 1 year, 366 posts. I started on my birthday and whatever year that was, and finished on my birthday in the next year. It had a small readership, but a number of the people who read it really appreciated it. For different reasons, but they found a lot of stuff in there. They were short posts that they could grab onto that gave them something to think about during their day. So I have this evidence that there actually are some people who are interested in what I have to say and the way I say it. There are people out there who are interested in the way I think, the way I bring together ideas from different places, and how I filter that through my own experience to talk about my sense of what's going on in the world and what's going on with me, and what I think is going on with us collectively and maybe with you. So we have these stories that we tell ourselves. We're always telling ourselves stories. Um, they're so familiar to us, we don't even necessarily realize that they're stories. They just feel like reality, like truth. And so some things have happened just in the last week, where I started rethinking this. I started thinking, so what if there aren't, I don't know, you know, millions or thousands or hundreds of people who are interested in this content? Um, I have something to say, just like you have something to say. And I have the means to say it. And so that's what this video podcast, is going to be about. It's mostly going to be me. I'm probably going to do some interviews from time to time. I have a interviews inside the personal story coach program that I've made. And I may interview people from time to time, but for the most part, the challenge I'm setting for myself, kind of like the challenge I set myself to write every day for a year, is going to be to turn on the camera and the microphone, to not have a script, and to hopefully say something interesting, useful, beneficial to you about what I'm thinking about in terms of this whole question of how we interpret our experience, how we interpret the world, and what effect that has on our life. So, for example, when we show up in the world not showing up, when we show up and say, well, I don't have anything fresh or new to say, nobody's going to be interested. There's already more than enough content out there. In addition to that being a really arrogant position to take, like, the person saying that knows, has a kind of omniscient, view, understanding of everything. It's also selling ourselves short. It's playing small. And I think here at the end of 2022, with what's going on in the world, I don't think we can afford to play small anymore. I think we need people who are prepared to stand up and show up respectfully, lovingly, thoughtfully, to talk about what's on their mind, what's on their heart. And maybe it's like this. Maybe it's through a podcast. Maybe it's over coffee with a friend. Maybe it's with your children or your partner or your parents. To really show up fully with our heart open, our mind open, not worrying if the words come out exactly right the first time, not wondering if there's any, uncomfortable pauses or we might say things the wrong way, but just a willingness to show up and to say, here's how I see things. How do you see things? And so that's what I'm going to do. I don't know how often I'm going to do it, probably at least once a week. And I think that's all I'm going to say for now. So if you found this, thanks for watching it. If you're still watching it, you know the drill with all this kind of stuff, that if this is useful to you, if this is of interest to you, if you can click subscribe, and like it, and maybe share it with someone who you think might benefit from it. Somebody who who is selling themselves short and might benefit from hearing that, yeah, you can do that. And then you can also change and stand up and speak out and tell us what you have to say. Let us be the judge of whether it's worth hearing or not. Thanks. We'll hopefully see you again. Take care.